Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Introvert Perspective. For those who are unaware, I am your host, Chantel. Today, this is the first episode of my podcast, and I want to lead it off with one that's extremely important, in my opinion. It's about faith and having it over fear. So, faith to me, I feel like everyone should at least have some sort of knowledge of. It's been talked about honestly every day, but it's not something that's often practiced. So the first thing for me, it's a huge obstacle, and I can understand why it's not as practiced as it should be. Because that for me was the hurdle that I really needed to overcome in order to proceed down the right path in my life. Now I can remember being in church, I don't know how many Sundays, and faith was a very popular topic. One pastor I remember actually brought in the amount of faith that is said that we need, and it was a mustard seed. I couldn't see it from where I was sitting because of the size of it. Now, if you have not seen a mustard seed, I feel that you should, because that is honestly all the faith that you're going to need to overcome whatever may come your way. So for me, it's like, how can something so tiny be all that we need to navigate successfully through this journey we call life? So allow me to enlighten you as I share how I overcame fear by using faith. So the first step that I took was surrendering. My back was against the wall prior to 2021 coming in. 2020 is when I had to make a decision throughout the chaos and confusion of this pandemic and so many other things. I'm not going to touch on it. I don't want to get into the politics. But in the midst of all of that, I received some information regarding my health. That just turned my world completely upside down. So when I received that information, it was at that moment that I just felt like, okay, what do I need to do? Because I feel like I only have two paths to choose from, and those being be in the world or be of it. That's a topic for another day. So I'm not going to touch on that. But it was either I needed to surrender to God's will and His way or continue going in the wrong direction by using my own faith as judgment. So I chose to surrender. I feel like that has been the best decision I've ever made in my life because it required a great deal of faith for me to even take that step. It takes faith to entrust in the unseen. And I was just so tired of being me and not getting the results out of life that I felt that I should have been getting. So I decided to get out of my own way. I surrendered to God's will, His way, and have never looked back. Now we're going to jump into the second step that I took, which is right now, it's shining my light. This podcast was not something that I ever imagined myself doing. If you ask anyone who may know me or even kind of been around me um, to understand kind of who I am, they would tell you that I didn't speak much. I'm more of an observer and a listener. So by posting my blog as well as my podcast episodes, I've made a way to allow my voice to be heard. And that honestly was the purpose that God has intended for my life. So I'm shining my light for those who aren't aware of what that means by using my voice. I'm shedding light on things that you may not hear anywhere else. I'm shining light on what you need in order to become the best version of yourself, because that is ultimately the end goal. So by me actually starting this podcast, man, that I'm terrified of putting myself out here, but with faith, it's allowed me to actually push myself so much further past the limitations that I thought were there. Without faith, this podcast, my blog, would not have ever been created. But there is a final piece to the puzzle, and that for me has sealed the deal with having faith over fear and actually successfully navigating through life by doing this. So, the last step, guys, is a big one. It's believing in me. There are people who are dead and gone who have taken their gifts, their talents, their abilities to the grave with them. But as for me, I refuse to take anything with me. What is within me is it's not for me. The will of God. This is what I was supposed to be doing, so this is what I'm doing. I don't take credit for any of this. But believing in oneself, oh my gosh, that is it's a challenge. And I know that's often the number one reason why we don't step out on faith, because we don't believe in ourselves. I've suffered from low self esteem and lack of confidence since I had my daughter, and she is 13. And I didn't even realize it until I surrendered. My eyes have been open to what had really been hindering me, the obstacles that were in my way that I couldn't see. So now it's for me, it's sometimes it's the faith or just having that belief in oneself is challenging. And I feel that that's the number one reason why we don't step out on faith. We don't take risks. We don't do what we feel we should because it's not popular. I suffered from low self esteem and lack of confidence for years after I had my daughter. I didn't really realize it honestly until last year that that was what was holding me back from speaking my truth, from actually going through with the podcast, because this idea actually came 6 or 7 months ago. And I just was afraid. I didn't want to step out. I didn't really believe in me. And I know that speaking wasn't the first thing that I do. It's listening. So for me to be speaking, it just completely blows my mind that this is what I'm doing. It's surreal. But get back on topic, sorry. Sometimes it's not the faith in something or the lack of the unseen that keeps us in fear. But I feel like it's the faith in ourselves. That's the real issue. So for me, by surrendering, then shining your light, and lastly, believing in yourself, I feel that that's going to take you exactly where you need to be. I haven't been happier. This has been by far the best year of my life. And it's just tweaks. Change your perspective. This is why it's the introvert perspective, because that is what changed for me. That was the major key to unlocking my unlimited, potential, and allowing me to finally step out on faith and not allow fear to continue to hinder me from where I'm supposed to be going in my life. We're all here on purpose for a purpose. So by taking these steps, I'm telling you, it will absolutely push you in that direction that you're trying to go in finding your purpose, walking in your purpose, living in your purpose. So I do thank you so much for tuning in to this first episode. Feel free to leave a comment, feedback, if you have any questions, but just keep it positive, please. And if you can do something else for me, just choose to vibe higher. Talk to you soon.